Did you know the risk of cancer does not stop at the scene of the fire? Firefighters are constantly exposed to diesel exhaust fumes and other airborne toxins that get trapped inside the station, leading to cancer. Protect yourself with MagneGrip. Through the combination of MagneGrip exhaust removal systems and AirHawk air purification systems, only MagneGrip eliminates 100% of all cancer-causing toxins within the station. Learn more at magnegrip.com.
In the world of firefighting and public safety, reliability is key. That's why for over 2 decades, first responders nationwide have trusted the Fire Store as their go-to source for essential equipment, apparel, and accessories. From top-of-the-line firefighting gear like helmets, boots, and thermal imaging cameras, the Fire Store has it all, tailored to the specific needs of our heroes on the front lines. But they don't stop there. Their extensive selection also includes EMS supplies, safety apparel like flame-resistant clothing and high-visibility gear, as well as a wide array of tools, from hand tools to vehicle extrication tools, supporting public safety professionals in their duties. Partnered with industry leaders, the Fire Store's commitment to quality and excellence is unmatched, because when it comes to protecting communities, there's no room for compromise. Join the thousands of first responders who rely on the Fire Store. Visit thefirestore.com online or in-store today. The Fire Store, your reliable partner for fire and public safety equipment.
All right, here we go. It's a little bit different. We're honestly, we're still adjusting to this format. Me and Anthony have been doing the show for a while now, but we used to get a big long introduction of music and sirens, and so we're still trying to get our start points correct. So we want to welcome everybody in. We are super excited, kind of taking a little bit different approaches to this particular show, something a little bit, I want to say totally unique, but I think unique enough that we need to have more conversations. And so we've invited 2 very special guests on. I'm going to have them introduce themselves in just a second, but we'll start like we always do. My name is Todd Edwards. I did 31 plus years in the city of Atlanta. Very fortunate and blessed to get to teach guys with guys all over the country like Captain Rowett, and our 2 guests have actually got to be in some of their classes and taught alongside one of them. And so it's a real pleasure to have them. And let Captain Rowett introduce himself.
Anthony Rowett, 15 years with the Mobile Fire Rescue Department in Mobile, Alabama, and 3 years volunteering before that in northern New Jersey, and get to travel the country with people like Todd and get to just enjoy it and spread the word and meet a bunch of people and experience different things in the fire service. So go wrong with it right after FDIC.
Yeah, and I think we're both still in that recovery mode, and I'm getting ready to fly out of here again on Thursday. So I'm really all over the place right now. So let me start with our top corner there. Ms. Chelsey, can you introduce yourself to everybody for us?
Yep. I'm Chelsey Schneider. I've been in the fire service about 10 years. I'm a full-time firefighter paramedic at Worthington. I also on the side teach for a rescue tech group. And then I also am the assistant director of training for ESA and the EV company that does training out there. So
lots of stuff. And she is married to a guy who has lots of stuff as well. So that's all to her.
Very true.
And Miss, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself, Miss Trinidad.
Yeah, so I'm Niki, Trinidad. I work for the Gwinnett Fire Department in Georgia. I'm very new. I'm only 4 years in. I've been working with Todd now for probably like 2 years. First started off going to his classes and just went from there. I still remember the very first time I met you it was the Alabama Hot class. And it was like the following the hose line through the school. And I remember you tapped me on the shoulder and you're like, so you finished everything. Like not a lot of people finished and you did it. And then I saw you in Pensacola and it's kind of been history from there.
And so everybody who listens and tunes in and downloads this class, these 2 guests were chosen by me specifically for a certain reason. And that reason is because they are not just firefighters, but they're badass firefighters. They're into the job. They understand what it takes. But we really are going to kind of touch on the subject. And it's about women in the fire service and where we're at, where we've come from. And hopefully we're going to get some great answers and feedback from them about where we can go next. And I think it's something that I ask a lot of the female firefighters that come to our programs, and we'll kind of get into some of that as we go through. So I'm going to start with Nick on this first question. How did you just wake up one morning and go, you know what, shit, I think I want to go fight fire? How did you get into this, Niki?
So it was during college. I was CrossFit coaching at the time and in Arizona, and one of the members was a Phoenix firefighter. And he was asking me, what are you doing after school? And I had no idea. I was studying exercise science. I knew I wanted to be active. And he's like, I think you'd be a really good firefighter. Do you want to come do a ride along? So I did it one day, and it was like, I've known these guys my whole life. It just felt so right. They were so welcoming. Of course, you're like going to a group of guys, super intimidating, big muscular men, right? But I worked out with them. I hung in there, and they were just super supportive. So kind of, it took me a while to get into the service, but I always remembered that experience, and kind of just that's where it started from there.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting how that came about. Where I don't know what I'm going to do now. You're 4 years deep in paramedic school now as well. So. And we'll go. Same question for you, Chelsey.
So funny enough, I was also in grad school at the time. I was working as like an admin at one of the fire departments and coaching cross country and track at the same time. And the guys were like, hey, you should go get your volunteer card and start doing runs with us. So after that, I kind of got addicted. Our first search and rescue class, I was in like 100%. I was like, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. Like, I love active stuff. And I knew I wanted to do something active. I didn't know it was. And I finally found it when I started into that. And then from the volunteer side, decided I had to go full time and be a paramedic and all that fun stuff. So I got addicted real early.
and I love that both of you kind of said the same thing. And I think it is addictive. It becomes, and I describe this a lot in leadership classes, that it's not just kind of a job. It really becomes our lifestyle. When you travel, like, I'll use Chelsey and Bobby example. They flew into India. Well, I don't know. I guess he flew. I don't know how you guys got to Indy. They came to FDIC, did a bunch of work at FDIC, left FDIC, flew clear across the country for another event, and then I guess finally decided to come home again. So, but it's a lifestyle. It's not just where you just you go to work for 8 to 5 and you come home, and 8 to 5 come home, 8 to 5 come home. It really dictates a lot of things in our lives. And I know this wasn't on our agenda, but I want to spin something back to Niki. Your fiance, you guys are engaged now, right?
Not yet.
Sorry, I don't put him on. How does he adjust to your lifestyle?
So he just graduated the academy.
Okay.
When we first met, he was working. His full-time job was my side job. We work at like a hormone clinic, and so I've been with him the whole time he's been through the process, the academy, everything, and so he's actually in the same battalion I am. We're on the same shift, so that lucked out. But that's been like really, really great experience for us because now when I like tell stories, like he can understand. He knows the lingo, stuff like that. So for us to be in it together, I think that means a lot. And that's not the case with every, Chelsey says her husband, right, is in it. So it's like, that's not the case with every couple. So we are very fortunate, but I think that does mean a lot when you bring it back to your family side and how they can understand when they're not in the job.
So have you ever asked him have you ever called him a rookie yet?
Oh yeah. I definitely stole his nozzle on his first fire.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But you gotta learn.
No, there's a story. There's a story you will have forever. I stole my husband's nozzle. Hopefully husband down the road. I don't want to get anybody over the gun there. So, and I know that wasn't really on our agenda, but I was thinking about it this morning when I was out. So, I'm going to ask Rowett this question first. I'm because I have that curious nature. I kind of already know his answer, I hope. And it better be the right answer. Favorite part of the job for you, and I know it's kind of off topic, and because we're talking about women in the fire service, but I want to talk about this as well. Favorite part of the job for you, Ro?
Fires.
Not EMS? Nikki, if you say EMS, you're fired.
Fires.
Fires, okay. But what part of the fire? Let's get a little bit more detail.
Honestly, I would say for the first part of my career, it was just the adrenaline rush of going to fires.
Mm-hmm.
But it developed and being an officer for a while now, it's honestly watching the guys that came up under you do well at fires. It's the fun for the fires, but watching the guys implement what you've taught them and not have to be force-fed or guided in it. They're making the decisions and making the right ones and finding success at the fires. And then as they promote, seeing them be successful as officers at their fires.
That's a great, and I think that's something that everybody should be able to take a little something away from. So I love that answer. Chelsey, favorite part of the job?
I would say it's probably twofold. One, I'd say that every day is different. Every day we have is completely 100% different. No run's the same. I mean, we run on the same people, obviously, but it's always something new, some new story. But I'm going to tag off that. Like, I love watching people grow. And like, it's kind of cool because I'm in that transition mentor phase right now. So I get to see the guys under me kind of start coming up, start driving, start teaching them the engine work, the ladder work, all that stuff. And it's been a cool process, like almost like a coaching process, like Niki did before with CrossFit coaching, just seeing people grow in that. That's
all
awesome.
right, Niki. If you don't say it, don't say that ambulance, Niki.
Oh gosh, no. No, mine is like just always working towards something. You know, you may get really good at it, like throwing ladders, forcing door, but we're never going to like perfect something. There's always something to work on. And no matter how like deep we go, officer, whatever, we're still learning the craft. Things are still changing. And there's always something to improve on. So I love that.
I think that is, you'll see me turn away every now and then because when you guys are saying stuff, I love writing down notes and using those things down the road. But I think that's one of the coolest things, not being a 9-to-5 job, not being the same grind day after day after day after day, and not knowing what we're going to see, what we're going to get to do. Seeing people develop, like Rose said, that transition from being the firefighter, now mentoring other firefighters, and always getting a little bit better. So all those things are just so spot on. So I want to get into this. How do we get more more women into the fire service that are not just coming on to do public ed and EMS, but actually backstepping on a fire rig, stretching the first line, knocking down the front door, and getting after it? How do we get more women involved in the fire service? Because I've been fortunate, extremely blessed. I've worked with women firefighters since I was 16 years old. I've been showed up by women firefighters. I've been embarrassed by women firefighters. I've strived to be better, but I've never not worked with women firefighters throughout my whole career. But I'm still amazed that we don't see more women into the job. And I'm going to start with Chelsey on that question.
Well, I think that's the question that every like city council member and trustee asks like every day. And I'm sure Niki's got this question plenty of times. So I would say one thing is not purposely just trying to do, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this later, no quotas, but really focusing on like, hey, you're people who are already in team sports. Like kind of me and Niki both got recruited. We were already coaches. We'd already had that like team sport mentality. You know, if you're going to go into a high school and recruit, go talk to your basketball team, go talk to your soccer team, go talk to your track team. Like people who are motivated in that team mentality, they're going to be the people who are going to be driven to do this job. I mean, not saying you can't have a different background, but that's usually the people who are attracted to this job.
Niki.
There's a lot we could go on this, but you know, when you first like ask, how do we get people in the job? I don't really know how to tell you that. I think we should recruit athletes for sure. But for me, and I think, you know, for any of us, how do we get into this job is because we knew someone, right? And they brought us to the fire station. That's someone welcoming, you know, that you already know, or a family member that you had get you into it. But if you're someone who doesn't know anyone, or like, I really want to be a firefighter, but I don't know anything about it, then I think our social media platforms are probably going to help too. I know, like, I follow a lot of female firefighters on Instagram. I've connected with a lot of people from different states. And most of the time they're very welcoming. You can message them for any tips, whatever, and they've been very helpful. So.
one of the, I know Atlanta, in the metro Atlanta area at least, and other departments have done these like high school programs specifically for female firefighters, and they've had a little bit of success recruiting in that aspect. But I really agree with Chelsey that when we're just looking for quotas, we don't maybe always draw the best employees, and that's in all walks of life, not just female firefighters. But I also thought, why doesn't the fire service do a better job getting and recruiting out of the military? Because a female that's gone through boot camp and worked side by side with both men, women, all walks of life, and the military is not going to be their career, seems just like a natural avenue. And I don't hear, and maybe I just haven't heard enough of that as a tool for recruiting when somebody's leaving the military service or leaving the service and looking for their next job or something they're into. So I always thought that was an interesting point that I don't think we do a really good job of. So and I'll start with Niki, biggest challenge you've had as a female in the fire service? Biggest challenge?
I guess I'm going to lead to it's the looks they probably give me. It doesn't help. I'm short. I'm 5'2". So being a small female and traveling, I would always get they're trying to size you up. And but I kind of always just took it as a challenge. I'd be like, okay, I know you're judging me right now, but I'm going to prove to you that I can do this job. And I mean, I was the only female that finished in my recruit class. So, and I think Chelsey can attest to this, right? Like, we're not saying, you have to be pre-military, you have to be sports, whatever. But like, it does take a special female, certain type to do this job. It's a fine balance of, you're being part of a brotherhood, but also like, I am a female. I have to do things differently, but I'm going to find a way that works for me. So, biggest challenge, I guess, is, just learning how to do this job the best way I can do it.
Okay. Chelsey?
I would say when I started off, like a lot of it was just, finding your way to do things. So finding a way that was best for me to throw ladders, force doors, things like that. Some of it was different than what the guys did, because it was always like a 6'5" dude who was teaching me stuff, like how to like throw a ladder or how to like drag somebody every time. Didn't matter. But like now, like the more time I've had on, the harder thing for me has been like actually letting people help me, because I spent so like much time trying to be defensive about everything and like, trying to like prove that I could hold my own, I could do my own. And then there'd be like some 300-pound dude I need to lift up for an EMS room. And like, hey, I do need help. Like realizing I can't do it all on my own. I'm not like, I don't always have to be the tough guy. I'm one of a team. And like, that's a hard transition as you start getting like a little more time on as a female, I think, because we spent so much time just trying to prove ourselves that, hey, you're actually part of a team, not just on your own. And I would say I'm also lucky on that side, because my battalion chief is a woman, and she kind of has had those real talks with me like, hey, we know you're good. Like you need to work as a team now.
When we talk about some of those things, what about the reception from some of the guys over the course of your careers? I mean, just to be 100% honest, because I've seen both sides where we had a young lady come into I was battalion chief at the time. She came in, but I'd had her in recruit academy. So I already knew. The guys didn't know her. And I don't go in and give them any I want them to get to know her. And I already knew she was a badass. But they immediately, because of her size, and to be honest, she was an extremely, extremely attractive young lady, the guys treated her differently. And they assumed because she was cute and little, and they didn't realize until she literally had to put them in their place. And I just stood back and let her handle her business. But what about the guys? Do you think some of it is on us, the way we treat you guys? Yeah, you go ahead. Whoever tells me you start, I'll just call it.
All right. I will say, well, I've worked a variety of places, and there's good and bad, just like anywhere else. And the truth is there's good and bad females in the service. And unfortunately, there's such a small percentage of us. If somebody's worked with a bad female before, it puts a bad taste in their mouth for a long time. And that can have a bad like reputation with us in the future. But I will say sometimes it's just taking that time. The other part, and people don't talk about this a lot, is getting to know the guys' wives, because that's another whole component of it that people don't think about. But you have to earn their trust just as much as you have to earn the guys' trust, because you're working with their husbands every third day. Like it's a big deal. And they have to know that you can take care, like you can drag their husband out of the building just as much as he does. So
I'm writing a note. I'm going to get Niki because I want to circle back to that because he made me think of something. Go ahead, Nick.
all right.
I mean, everything Chelsey said, going back to the whole teamwork aspect, it is a fine balance, right? Like she said, you go in, you start off, here's where I'm at, what I can do. But then also being humble enough to be like, okay, we are a team. I know, you're 220 pounds, whatever. You can obviously lift this person a lot easier than I can, but I'm still here to help. It's still showing that effort. And as far as, the same thing about, it's a family, right? Like I am working with their husbands a third of our lives, right? That's a lot of time. So respecting that boundary. And, someone once told me, and it sounds so bad, but you got to realize when you come into this job, there's a lot of people who are going to think you are here for the wrong reasons. And that was something I didn't know. I didn't realize. And so just being aware of like how people perceive you, I guess. It's all about perception. It's all about how your name, how do people talk about you, right? Are they talking about how good of a worker you are? Are they talking about, she's a big flirt, stuff like that. So it's, it's just really that fine line. You have to, understand it's we're part of family, but you can't get too close. So.
Do you think, and this kind of goes back to a little bit where Chelsey was at, do you think a lot of girlfriends and wives assume because you guys are on the job that you're there just for that reason, that you're there to meet a husband or to date the guys and you're flirting with them and all that crap? Do you think there's some assumptions out there that we need to do a better job with our families and make sure they understand that's not what you're here for, that you're just one of us, just look a little bit different?
I think so. I mean, there's a lot I've already experienced in the short years I've been here where I've seen people are, doing the wrong stuff. So it's happened and they assume that I'm here for that, unfortunately.
Chelsey?
Yeah. Well, kind of like Niki said, like a few bad apples kind of ruin it for the rest of us. So unfortunately, it depends where you're at. If you're the first female, it's going to be hard. I've been in that position. I've had a lot of friends who've been in that position, and it takes time. But I mean, it's something you overcome eventually. It just, again, takes time, and you have to understand that that's what you're coming into. Even at a new, like I'm sure with her, if you're changing stations, anything like that, it's a whole new group.
And I'll ask, I want to switch this around to Captain Rowett, being in a good-sized city department. What has been your experience with females and your department working with, and I also know you have a very, very jealous wife. So how has that transition for you, or how have you kind of grown your people and developed them, and as well as, kind of keep everybody at that level that we're all firefighters, and it's not Niki, the female firefighter, it's Niki who's just a firefighter. I don't give a shit if she's a female or not.
So I've worked with females my whole career. As a firefighter, I worked with a female. As a driver, we had a female on the crew, and I worked for a female captain. I've had a female chief, and as a captain, I have a female on our crew. And we recruited her to our crew because she would get detailed to us, and she was just that hard of a worker. You met her in Fairhope. And my thing is, and she said it to me before, was that she doesn't like some of the people that came before because it created impressions she has to deal with. And she knows she goes into situations like she has to kill it because people are expecting her to fail. But when she came into the firehouse, like I said, we already knew her. She was getting detailed to us. She was from the firehouse right down the street. And everybody there wanted her because she worked so hard. But when she got there, she made it very clear to everybody she did not want to be treated special or anything different than anybody else. And when we talk about work harder and show them up sometimes, I mean, when there's the fight in the sink over who's doing dishes, she wins. Someone got so she doesn't lose. But again, it's going back to what they were talking about. She was a college athlete, all that kind of stuff. She understood the teamwork. But when she got there, because of past things they're talking about that have happened with other people in the past, wives being uncomfortable. That was a concern. And during, we're on the Mardi Gras parade route, so there's families there for Mardi Gras, and it was brought to me by a wife, like, because you've been our firehouse, we have all big community dorms. Like, I don't know about females in the dorm with the husbands again. By the time he retired, their families were extremely, extremely tight. She made that very close bond with him and his family, and they knew there was nothing there. But she did everything through her work. And when she told us, like, I don't want to do anything special, I want to do everything everyone else does, she showed it. But it was also where we had that conversation where I was like, at the end of the day, they are going to treat you different because you're female, but not in a bad way, because they are all very tight. You've met our crew. Everyone on that crew is very tight, and they legitimately see her as their sister. So nobody can mess with her. And if they go to pick up a patient, when they're telling her to move, we got it. They're not doing it out of any form of disrespect. They're treating her how they treat their sisters. And the crew is just that tight. But when we go to a call, she's working harder than anybody. When we're at the firehouse, if someone's working, she's working. So she has the same level of respect as everybody else, and it has nothing to do with the fact she's female. It's just that she earned it the way everybody else did. So not everyone went that route in our job. And she's told me before, like, that's an issue for her because she knows people expect her to fail. And then because of things other people have done, she knows she's going to get looked at a certain way. So.
And I think that's a lot on us as the men, and we have these I think a lot of firefighters, even today, that we have preconceived notions and ideas about female firefighters. And I think good, bad, or indifferent, however you want to perceive this, it's almost like you guys have to work double hard to prove yourselves. You guys agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my captains told me that. He's like, you're going to have to work at least twice as hard, sometimes 3 times as hard as the guys.
And I love how, Captain was saying, like, it really, they do treat you like a sister. That's the ultimate goal. If you can, be treated like a sister. And I'm like, when my first station, my drivers pulled me to the side and they said, listen, like, people are going to treat you differently. That's like, you hear that all the time. But they said, you're going to promote fast. You're female, you're multiracial. So our goal for you is that if you're going to move fast, I want you to earn it. I want people to know, like, hey, she can still do this job, not just because she moved up fast, but she actually deserved it. And I mean, I've carried that with me the whole time, as I'm going to prove that.
And that kind of, you kind of got my, you're leading me down a nice little rabbit hole here. Do you think, because in some departments they do promote females faster, that's a negative? Because they're looking for a quota?
I can take this one if you want for a second, Niki. I don't think it's a negative as long as you earned it. So, I mean, there's smart guys who get promoted fast too. There's guys who've been on the job for 6 years and get promoted to a lieutenant. Is that enough time? Depends on who you are. I think it depends on your department. A lot of departments, no, but for some people that might be. But I think as long as you're badass at your job and you show the right grit and everything like that, and you promote fast, and it's because of like what Niki said, because you're the best, you work hard, you know your job. Okay, cool. You can only control what you can do. You can only control your circle. You can't control what the city's going to do, what the chiefs are going to do. So, I mean, is it bad or good? Just try to be the best you can.
I think Niki said something that was spot on. It has to be earned and seen being earned, and not just because, again, guys around the firehouses, as soon as you get promoted, they start chirping. And I think that's another negative on our part, not on your part, on our part, for not recognizing, hey, this person's stupid intelligent. She has got this. She's done this. And I think you had, like you said, I think that advice you got about earning it was a huge piece of advice. Both of you, I'll ask you this, because I've been seeing this end of it as well. Do you think sometimes some of your counterparts are your own worst enemies? Some of the other females that you've seen in the fire service that don't go the route you two have? they're taking more of a I'm cute, look out after me, I don't have to mow grass. Do you think that hurts you guys as well sometimes?
100%. 100%. We try not to distinguish anyone, but basically a program was brought up a year ago. It was for a female who couldn't pass our physical test, and a program was brought on of what if we had an all-female program that would get females ready for the academy. And they talked to me about if I want to be involved in it. And to me, I know how hard I worked to get to where I was at. People who helped me, whatever. But that's almost asking for isolation. That's like, hey, let's treat them differently because they're females. If we can all, men and women, go through academy together, that's, just keep it that way. So that program is still about to happen. It's just open to males now as well. It's called like the pre-academy, and we'll see if it's a success or not. Maybe it's going to get people a little bit more prepared for the academy. It's something brand new. But the way it was started just rubbed me the wrong way. So
I do like the idea though of men being in that academy, not to have the men and women academy, but just because you're a guy doesn't mean that you're physically ready for the fire academy. So actually, I think it's a great idea, and I hope I think maybe some other departments can model. Chelsey, kind of that same genre of how you've been blessed to have a great chief officer as a woman with you, but what about some of the not so good?
I've seen good and bad. I always say, and luckily we've changed some of our physical standards over the years for my department, thank goodness. But I always say this is the only job, at least across most departments, where women and men have to pass the same physical test. You have to pass the same academy. There's nothing special for your age, for your gender, anything like that. And it needs to stay that way 100%. And if they ever change that, I'm probably out because I don't trust that person next to me going into that fire.
Yeah, and there are organizations, some very large ones, that have changed their standards to bring on, and I'd say that those standard changes aren't just bringing on females, it's bringing on other people because recruiting's so difficult and all those type of things right now. So I love, I agree with you guys 100%. I don't think the standard should be any different when we're talking about getting in the academy, and then when we're drilling. If I expect two guys to be able to push a deuce and a half, I should be able to put Chelsey and Nick on the same deuce and a half and expect the same exact result. But I think we've done that though, where we've I don't want to say expected less, but we make assumptions sometimes that because that's a female, she won't be able to do that. And I don't think that's just a guy. I think it's a national problem in some cases, especially for a medium-sized organization that maybe doesn't have a lot of females on the job. And then they get one, they're like, "Oh my God, we have a woman!" I love when I get those. I get those questions quite a bit.
Todd, I got a question I'd like to add in real quick.
Yeah, please.
I probably know most of the answer already, but it's something we've run into and I've seen and had to deal with being an officer with a female on the crew. And like I said, we're close, and you know my personality, so we can guess how that was handled. But if we ran into it, other people are, so it's probably, to me, if there's a female listening, some good insight they can gain from it. Is how do you guys dealing with the guys that just take an issue with being below a female or listening to a female? If you have to tell
great question. Love it.
There are guys that, regardless of how much you've earned it, they just take an issue with being told by a woman. I've run into that, and I said, if you know me, then we know how that was handled. It didn't occur again, but I got pulled in. So we made that very clear who was in charge that day. So
are you good with me starting, Niki? So I'm going through our out of class process, our lieutenant's process right now. I've been acting out of class for about a year and a half. So I have definitely dealt with it with some newer guys and some of the older guys. Usually not as bad from our senior guys because most of them have dealt with it. I think just like facing it straight on. If somebody has an issue with them, talking to them is a big thing, but also getting support from like your command staff. I had one of my battalion chiefs who was my lieutenant at the time tell me, he's like, my skin's thick enough for both of us. So if anybody starts giving you a problem, come to me and I'm gonna deal with it right then. But I mean, I've worked with these guys long enough that I have that support from working with them. So it's not like I'm coming into a station where like it's the first time I've met a crew and I can't even imagine dealing with that. Niki might have more of a environment for that, but it's definitely just earning those like above you and next to you. Like some of the senior guys have also been my biggest allies who like when somebody starts having a problem, they'll be like, knock it off. Like she knows her shit, knock it off.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same thing. I'm still, like I said, I'm still pretty new. So the people I have run across who you could just tell like they don't respect you. I try not to talk to them much, right? But I'll give them their space, whatever. But when the time comes or whatever call it is, you know, I'm doing the job. You don't have to tell me what to do. I already know what to do. And for the most part, I'd say, you know, anyone could attest, like I have a pretty good name and that's what I want to be known for, right? If you hear Trinidad, like they're gonna be like, you know what? Yeah, she's pretty short, but she can do the job. So that's all that matters to me.
So, kind of spinning off Rose's question, what is your advice to other female firefighters and maybe even some of the damn guys, the ones who assume because you're an attractive woman, they should be hitting on you at work?
Chelsey, gotta go get
I'll go, knock your shit off. I'm here to work and like, I don't want that right now. Whether it's person at work or whether it's patients. I think normally like people pick up on it pretty quickly that you're not there to flirt or be hit on or anything like that. In the past, I've just walked away from shit. Like when somebody did it. So it happened at the academy a lot more than in the job. In the job, for patients usually, or fire runs or whatever we're on that people try to hit on you. And my guys are like, get out of here.
I usually just start calling them bro. Just like right off the bat, you know. Yeah, you keep your distance, really. So.
Yeah, because I do. From some of the things that me and you've done together, Nick, I've actually seen guys. I mean, because they're guys. I mean, unfortunately, you guys work with us, and I see them looking at you and you give them those little checkouts, and I'm like, don't do it. You're gonna look real stupid.
Yeah.
What would you tell maybe another female, and maybe she's going through that in her own organization right now and doesn't know what to do right now? What would you tell her? And I'll start with you. I mean, you can't punt this one to Chelsey this fast. What would you tell her, Nicole?
I'd probably say sometimes you just gotta be the one that, you know, is the tough one. You go up to them, you tell them what's up. You just say, hey, you know, I'm here for the job. You need to knock that shit out. Stop doing that. And it's such a fine balance, right? Because that's something I had to learn. You really want to be a part of the brotherhood. You really want to, you know, but still be a sister. And then you are, you know, you're like, wait, I'm still a female. I don't need to act like a bro like the whole time. And you want to show your personality, right? Like a little bubbly or, you know, smart, whatever, witty. So I guess like the biggest tip I would say is in the beginning, when you first come out, keep your head down, let your work talk for itself. And then gradually start showing more of your personality. It's that fine balance of, you know, you don't have to be this macho woman, right? I can do everything by myself. And then you also should not be the damsel in distress who can't do anything. It really is that fine medium of, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. And that's something that I think every female is going to have to figure that out on her own. But just know that it really is a middle that you have to find.
Chelsey, best advice if I'm a female listening to this and I have this guy, I don't want to say he's right at the border of sexual harassment, but there's always those little, you look nice today. Oh, I love your hair. Did you do, little, because guys are subtle sometimes. Now, some are just like a hammer and you can pick it up real quick. Other guys are very subtle with their flirtations and their comments. What would you do in that scenario? What would be your advice to somebody, maybe another one of our sisters going through that crap?
I would say make clear boundaries. I mean, like Niki said, like keep your head down and working, like and doing that. But like, hey, like this is work. We're not hanging out outside of work, like things like that. That's a no go. Like until like, hey, obviously down the line when you're friends with people hanging out with their family, it's a different thing. But you should never be hanging out one on one, especially if you're new with another guy. Like that's not at all appropriate. Like maybe down the line, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think that's like clear boundaries like that early on, putting yourself in good situations is a good idea. But like Niki said, just trying to like, early on, keep your head down, like do your work. And then, also one of the things that helped me was making friends with my senior guys. And if somebody's fucking with me, they're going to like put them in their place a lot of the time. And you can bring it to them. You find your ally. I have two of my best friends on my shift, and they're my allies. And if somebody starts messing with me, they're going to be like, no way. So there's bad there. There's a lot of good there. There's a lot of people who are really good hearted who you're going to work with, and find those allies where you're at.
And so you guys are I love the honesty about this, because I think it's one of those subject matters. I know the fire service as a whole, we tend to shy away from like, oh my God, should we really talk about this guy who, is constantly staring at my butt every time I'm, working out the firehouse and those type of things. So kind of spin this back to the captain here. Knowing your guys, I do know your crew. What do you say to them if you see them in that kind of going down that path of going, oh man, did you hear about the new female? Or have you seen her? Oh my God, she's this, she's that. Do you address that, or you just kind of let it lie?
It was addressed when they came. I don't want to see it. I don't want to deal with it. We're at work. And having a female, the easiest way I've seen it get shut down when people want to flirt is the guys in the firehouse. If they
Awesome.
compete them, it's over. I mean, it just is what it is. And we've seen it before. The guy that's just hanging around, and all the captains are sitting there at shift change watching. You got two groups of people sitting there watching day after day, someone just hanging around. Hey man, you notice that? Yep. All right. You walk over, is he making you uncomfortable? And it's always the same man. Oh no, it's okay. You want it to stop? Hey man, you're going to leave now. Go. And it stops, because they don't want to get confronted by another dude. So, and when they do, it ends. So the guys in the firehouse can end it quicker than anybody else. If they let them know, hey, you're not doing that here, it'll end. So it's
Well,
simple.
I've seen Niki deadlift. If she wants it to end, she can make it end real quick.
Well, I do want to share some quick stories. We do have an older male, been in the job a very long time. He's got, I've seen him talk with all the guys, very friendly. And when I first met him, he was like traveling. And I remember we were like in line to get food. I felt someone's put their hands on my shoulders, like going for a massage. And I like turned and I realized it was him. And I was like, it just like took me by surprise. So I like moved away immediately. And I didn't say anything. I think I was just like so in shock that happened. But two of the firefighters were behind him. And I was like, did you see what he did? And they're like, yeah, but like, I didn't really know what to say. So like, to the males, who are firefighters, I'd say look out for the females in that case. Because I mean, I've heard men say like inappropriate things, but the other males don't hear it, right? Like I heard it. I think that was inappropriate, but they
heard it. They heard it.
So, yeah. So.
And can I add to Niki's point, as a senior females, like, because there's plenty probably watching right now, watch out for your sisters too. We're not all independent. Like, you've been through it. I mean, most of like my battalion chief's been on 25 years. Like, she's seen the worst of shit that you could see. Like, look out for your sisters. Like, don't let them go through the same shit you went through.
I think, man, it's such good sound advice. Coming from somebody with some time in the job, and you do travel, you are interacting with a lot of male firefighters now, especially as much teaching that you guys are doing with the EV and on all those things. So even better to have that feedback and opinion from you. So how your advice, not to just females, what is your advice to us, to the guys that try to start breaking up some of this bias that the males still kind of have? What should we be doing?
I would say, so realize that, we're not as strong as you, right? So that was the other thing is they do want to see us succeed, but you have a 6'2" guy telling me how to throw a ladder, force a door. I'm not going to do it the same way as you. So, and that's something my crew said they've learned from having me is they've learned more about technique and form, and they kind of get in my mindset of how I can do stuff. So it's not, hey, we're going to muscle through this. She's got to learn a different way. So they've admitted to that as far as like techniques and learning goes. And then as far as just station life, I would say just treat us like a sister, because we really do want to be part of the family. And hopefully the females, you have tough skin because you have to in this job. I mean, my dad is a retired police officer, so I grew up with this.
Yeah.
And apple didn't fall far from the tree, but I'll just say we really do want to try to be part of the crew.
Chelsey?
Yeah, I would say the part of the crew, but also, I mean, even beyond just like the fire side of things, realize that there's different strengths women and men have. We're going to be, first of all, both me and Niki are going to be able to get into any small space you need because we're tiny. So like I always say, there's Chelsey jobs and then my partner's Joe, like there's Joe jobs. Like, but like other than that, like, I mean, compassion, empathy, like things we don't want to talk about. We don't want to admit as females. We do have those things. We do have a good sense of when shit's going bad. Like usually like we've walked into a lot of situations where I tell my guys, I was like, something bad is going on here, whether it's a fire, whether it's an auto accident, whether it's a EMS run, like, and there's different strengths that men and women have. And like the good officers I've had have highlighted those. They've known that they know, and they've known how to like really like emphasize that. So I'd say even on a chief officer side, like realize what the strengths are of your people, whether they're men or women, and like highlight those and emphasize those. It's not just the biggest, baddest dude who is the only important person on your crew. That small guy who needs to get into the back seat when we have an auto accident and stabilize the person. That person's just as important as the person who can run the tools like a badass. So like, just understand that.
It's so funny. You guys were talking about Joe jobs. And we can get into these small spaces. At one time, my company I think I had the two shortest firefighters in the history of Atlanta Fire Department, one being a woman and one being a man. So there were certain things they could do, and there were certain things they couldn't do. And it was funny because every time we had to get like up in the attics, they couldn't get up on furniture, so they would like boost the captain up sometimes. And they dropped me more than once. And so, even then, it's really cool now because Michelle, she's a battalion chief on our job now, and Bigler is a captain on our job now. So it's really cool to see them now. And we laugh about those, the short stuff because they were both just midgets, basically. So it's fun to have those kind of. I love that you made that reference that there was advantages and Niki talking about the adaptive, and we adapted to certain things on the job. Even pulling down the crosslay when I had those two was a little bit of a challenge. So our driver would kind of get it down, and she could shoulder and do everything everybody else could do. But she was vertically challenged. Not mentally, but physically, she was vertically challenged. So that did hurt. So I want to transition to this. I think it's a good topic. And I've asked both of you this multiple times, and I even me and Chelsey actually were having this conversation at FDIC. How being at FDIC, and I actually had several females come through our hands-on program, but in no comparison of the number of female firefighters in this country. How do we get more women to step out of that comfort zone and come to classes, whether it's at a conference, a micro conference, a 40 student type of event? How do we get more females comfortable to coming to trainings outside of their organizations, like to an FDIC or something that Anthony or somebody else is promoting?
So do you want me to take this one first, Niki? So, I mean, it's twofold. One, they have to take initiative on their own. I mean, that's part of it. That's part of, hey, as a company officer, you're pushing your people to take training, be outside, be hungry for this job. But I'd say the other thing is, and I think we talked about this, the hard thing with female instructors, and I'm lucky in my rescue job that I work with like 4 other female firefighters who are super badass. But a lot of the times, it doesn't matter what job field you're in, females don't typically go out of their comfort zone to try to like self promote themselves. So like we'll be at rescue tech class and I have dudes walk up to me all the time like, hey, how do I become an instructor? How do I become an instructor? And that doesn't happen as much with female firefighters. They almost like feel like they have to be asked to be put in that role. You know what I mean? So I think it's a little bit of a culture change on our side, but also just understanding like look out for those badass like firefighters and like as instructors help to promote them along the way, help to like feed them if they're hungry, feed into that. I would say like Nozzle Forward's really good about that. Aaron Fields, if you've ever taken his class, awesome class. And he hits on that a ton. He has a couple of female instructors, but he hits on like feeding into that hunger of the female firefighters there.
Love that. Nicole?
I would say surround yourself with the people who go to outside classes, because there should be a handful of them in your department. You just got to find them. And I've been very fortunate to be part of that group. My very first lieutenant, he goes up and teaches engine truck ops during the academy. And what started off as just me going to help eventually led me to leading some classes. I'll do like the nozzle forward up the stairwell. And now he trusts me to lead, and teach that. So, and then after every time we do teach that to recruits, I always mention like, hey, we are a part of outside classes and we all go, hit us up, our emails, and we would gladly, send you whatever we know. So having that openness and communication is super helpful, but I would just say try to find those people and reach out to them.
Yeah, and I'll vouch for Niki all day long. We brought her on board to help teach, and I threw her to the best nozzleman in the country when we talk about Kyle Romagus. And after about an hour, I came to Kyle. I said, "Is she killing it?" And he said, "She is killing it. I don't have to say another word to her." So yeah, I think that we just need to. I think we need to do a better job embracing both female instructors, but I want more female students, and I want women in the fire service to, like you guys are saying, come out, and you'd be amazed of how much you can learn outside your own organization. And for instructors, we need to do a better job of teaching too. And I love some of the stuff you said. And one of the things I really harp on with my guys, teaching, there's ways to do things, but we also have to be very adaptive. And I learned that from working with so many women firefighters over the course of my career. What I can do and what Niki can do may be two different things, but we can both do it. She just may have to do it a little bit different than I do it. And sometimes I think we pigeonhole students into, this is the technique you must do. And I find that to be total bullshit, because I think everybody should be able to adapt body type, body mechanics to what's going to work best. I don't care how you get the ladder to the building. I just need the damn ladder to the building when we got people trapped on the second floor. I think that's a better approach to look at from an instructor standpoint than this is the way we always do it kind of crap. And hopefully anybody who teaches is listening to this and will kind of understand that there is more ways to do this job than we sometimes, teach. And I harp on that a lot when I'm teaching it. This is the way I do it. Show me how you do it. How can we adapt? How we can improve those skill sets? So, excuse me, I think it's way better to look at it in those lights. I can't. When you do trainings, and I'm going to ask Captain Rowett this question, your approach to female firefighters and trainings. I'll tell you my approach after you tell me yours.
I just treat the group the same to start, and then just try to watch and see how it's going. I mean, and treat everyone. It's across the board, because anyone that's struggling, you're going to take the time and try to figure out what's going to work for them. So I don't try to make anything special about it because there's a female in the group. I try to watch. Here's the presentation of the information or how to do the skill, and then I'm going to watch each person as they do it. And regardless, male or female, you're going to have to adjust to make sure they get the skill at the end. So whether they're tall, short, male, female, there's always going to be adjustments to make sure they know how to do it. So my approach is just by the time they leave that class or even that just skill station, each person learned how to do it in a way that works for them, not whether they're male, female, whatever, short, tall, fat, skinny. Just make sure each person found a way to be able to do that skill.
And that's exactly the same line I'm on too. And I think instructors, officers, other firefighters, if we just treat everybody the exact same and then adapt to what works best for every individual, it's really not that damn hard. I think we sometimes make it harder and make it more complicated than it really needs to be when we talk about training. I want to ask both of you that same question because you're both out teaching and you're teaching at the academy and you've taught with me, Nick. Do you have a different approach sometimes with females, or are you kind of in the same line where me and Captain Rowett are?
I definitely want to show females like how hard you can push yourself, right? I want to kind of like a standard, right? We're there to do work. I've definitely been at the academy and seen the females who are sliding by and letting all the males do the work, right? They may be part of the team. They didn't even touch the hose, right? But like they made it through because the team made it through. And that's very hard to watch for me. So just going in and showing the work to hopefully show them that, hey, like you got to do this too. I remember our last class we had, Todd, there's one female that showed up to that class, and of course, resonated with her. I tried to help her, but to have, I had a shorter guy come up to me and be like, hey, like you're short. How do you do this? And then a taller guy was like, hey, I didn't even know I could do that. So that really like hit home with me that, okay, I can reach out to other people, not just the short people, not just female. So that definitely like helped a lot. Like how much form can like help people.
I love that. Chelsey?
I'm probably on the same side as the Cap and Niki. I don't think I go out of my way necessarily to like help females specifically, but like if I see somebody struggling with something, I'm gonna give them techniques, like especially auto extrication, like, hey, here's the technique. You're gonna deadlift this. Don't try to just pick it up with your back. Squat down like you're doing a deadlift and deadlift that 40-inch spreader on your shoulder to get it up in the right spot, because you got to put it in the right position. And like auto extrication, like at least for us, like that seems to be one of the things that females seem to struggle with a lot, because a lot of people try to aggressively slam tools in and things like that, things they shouldn't be doing, and really hitting on the technique of stuff. For me, it kind of highlights that, like, hey, anybody can do this. Like, you just need good technique. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing that, forceful entry, throwing ladders, like, and really hitting on those techniques and that reps of just getting good technique.
Very good. Yeah, I had a young lady in our class at FDIC, and she was struggling with making her turns. We were just doing pin and hit techniques, pushing hauls, and I could not find a good avenue for her. But another guy who was about, it was a dude, about her same kind of body type, he had a little hip technique he used and showed it, and we literally watched, and it was really great to see students helping students. And so again, another recommendation, for our instructors out there, it's okay. It's okay not to have every technique down, because your body's your body and your mechanics are your mechanics. So it was really interesting to watch how that transformed and how she was able to make that adjustment. Time we hit the third push, she was killing it, just absolutely killing it with her transition, going from a hard left to a hard right and never missing a beat after that. So I think it's something, again, we didn't isolate her. I couldn't teach her, but somebody else was able to show her with the same exact body type, just happened to be a guy. So those are really that. I think teaching in general, you really learn a lot about how different everybody is, both men and women, and treating everybody the same. And I think the encouragement thing is the one thing I would say that we probably I want to touch on, because I do see what you said, Nicole, at conferences, and I can see where it could be intimidating. But I see guys fall back too. Forcible entry station is a big one. When you'll see this big group waiting their turn at the door, but you keep seeing the same person never getting all the way up to the door. So when I notice that, I'll kind of walk up and give a little, hey, let's try this, or I'll even step in and help and try it with them. Because I think sometimes maybe just a little bit of a nudge can help somebody. I mean, men and women, but I think especially in what can be an intimidating environment sometimes, that you go to training to fail. So you go to training to learn, but if you're going to fail at opening the door, I'd rather you fail in that parking lot than I would a 2-story single family sinking at 3 a.m. with people trapped behind that door. So I think it's one of those encouragement things that we need to do a better job as a whole. So here's a I don't want to call it unique, but I wanted to see the answer here. I'm going to start with Chelsey on this one. As a female firefighter, what is one thing that you would tell the fire chief of any department to make things better as a whole? Not just for females. I'm talking as a whole, from your perspective as a female firefighter with 10 years in.
I would say never change your standards, like your physical standards. And I get it with recruitment. Recruitment's hard. It's hard to find people, and this might be controversial, but we have to keep those state standards up. I mean, our job relies on this. Our job, it doesn't matter. It doesn't care if we don't get enough recruits or whatever. We can't lower those standards. And that's something I've seen nationwide is departments who are struggling to find people, and they go to that. And to me, it's scary. It's a scary future for us.
I wrote down never change your standards. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to make a meme today at some point and use that. Absolutely love that. Nicole, same thing. You sit down with the fairly new fire chief of Gwinnett County, and you can tell him one thing to make things better.
I would say to encourage us to do outside training. I think we have an idea that what we learned is the way, and they don't really encourage us to do more learning. So, like I said, I got fortunate to be part of a group that does, but that's not how our department sees it. So I think they actually used to pay for some class like MAFC, and they don't anymore. They pay a portion of it. Yeah. So I would just
cheap too. It's not even expensive.
I think they bumped up to $100 now.
God dang.
But yeah, I would say to encourage us as a department to keep learning.
I like the outside aspect too. I know Gwinnett can be a little, insulated sometimes. I don't see a lot of the Gwinnett folks out and about as much as I think they should be out and about. They came to that one, the Alabama thing, which was outside. Matter of fact, you guys had 40. That was the biggest group of one department I've ever seen in a training class. So that was really good to see. So I thought of another question, and it is more of that personal thing. Where do you want to see yourselves as female firefighters? Where do you want to be at in the future, Nicole? What is your end goal at the end of your career? Where do you want to be at? As time goes on, 10 years down the road from here. Honest answer. Don't give me the political crap. Give me a good honest answer.
I for sure know I want to be a lieutenant. That's actually why I'm doing paramedic school, because that's the only way we can become an officer. You have to be a paramedic. So knocking that out now, I think it's going to teach me also how to be a leader and lead calls, and to stand back and trust your crew. So little things like that you can learn. But I would love to be a chief one day. That's going to be longer than 10 years. But Chief Trinidad, that's the goal.
That's a nice little ring to it.
It does, right?
I'll come work for you. I may not be alive, but if I'm alive, I'll come work for you. Same thing, Chelsey.
So like I said, I'm going through a lieutenant's process right now. So the chiefs hear this, it's fine. But it's hard for me because there's a tie. I want to stay on the trucks for my entire career because I love the work. I love doing the job. And obviously, as soon as you promote off the trucks into the higher officer positions, you get off the trucks and you're not able to, you don't get to do the work. But I think the ultimate goal would probably be a training officer of some type. I like Niki said, the outside training for me is what keeps people hungry. It keeps people in this job. And we have our priorities in the firehouse, no matter where you're at. I get it. But training is vital to our job, and like really highlighting that. I think that's the position where you can really change the department the most. You can change the future. So,
and I'm going to put Rowett on the spot. Same question to you, because I know some things, but I want to hear you actually finally come out and say that you're going to be a battalion chief. Say it.
Yeah. Keep wishing. Well, first off, we're going to clarify it's not quite the same as you did as a female firefighter. So we're going to clarify that.
But I mean, I'm just putting you on the spot now.
My goal is to finish out as a captain in the firehouse I'm in.
He's going to be a battalion chief one day. He hasn't wrapped his head around this yet.
A lot of my reason is I don't know that I'll ever want to give up being on the rig, but also for a few reasons with the captain's rank for us, and we don't have lieutenants, everyone's a captain, is I think you're the most influential rank in the fire department. Because once you're in charge of a lot of people, but even if you live in the firehouse, you're a guest there. You live in that firehouse. That's the way our chiefs look at it, is that's that captain's house. You're just a guest. Just like when you visit another firehouse. That's my firehouse. I have a lot of influence on how things go. Doesn't matter what's going on in the city, what's going on in the fire department, I can control that. And we can have high morale. We can be a high training crew. But also when I look at my biggest mentors and the guys that really had an impact on me that I really look up to and I'd want to be like, they all retired as captains. And that's just the guys that never sold their soul. They never changed. They were the same person forever. And they really created the next leaders of the fire department, the next awesome firemen. They were all downtown captains. Robert O'Shea, Mike Smith, Ray Hilder. I mean, the list goes on, but that's what they all were. They were just these salty officers on certain crews. And a lot of them came in that District 1 area. So for me to do, say, 30 years as an officer in that crew and that district, 40 years in that district whole, and then walk away, that'd be the ultimate for me. So it's not necessarily just to not be a chief. There's a lot of reasons why I like the role I'm in. And I think you have a lot of influence, and just my biggest mentors, that's the way they went out. And if I could go out in the same sentence as them, that'd be enough for me. So
that's why I can't wait till you're chief of training in Mobile, Alabama.
You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about it. I've made it to HR already. And I'm not trying to be like you.
Yeah, no, don't follow my footsteps. That's a bad piece of advice. Don't follow my footsteps. I have an odd career track. So usually, Chelsey and Nick, I usually ask for final comments, but I'm going to kind of direct it today. So I want your best piece of advice for both females coming into the fire service and females already in the job, that if you had like 10,000 female firefighters in front of you right now, you're at a major conference, there's nothing but female firefighters, from chief to fire chiefs to battalion chiefs to lieutenants to rookies. What would be your best advice as female firefighters to other females? You guys decide who's going first.
I could go first. I would say, and I've mentioned it before, is let your actions speak louder than words. And to truly, truly realize that your reputation and your name means everything. So even guys that haven't even met you yet, I'm probably telling you that they already know your name. So, I mean, I learned very fast, what is it? Tell a friend, tell a firefighter, right? Like rumors spread super fast. I always say, I never want to be in a sorority in college, and I joined a fraternity instead. So, just prove to them that you can do the job and never stop working hard at the job, because there's always something to work on.
Love that. Absolutely great advice. Chelsey, you should have went first. That's going to be hard to follow.
I know. Oh man. I would say probably stay hungry. So this job, as my husband tells me all the time, there's valleys and hills that you're going through all the time, every day. Doesn't matter where you're at, doesn't matter who you are. Like every day is a different ride, and you're in the peak or you're in a valley. So you feed that by staying hungry and going to outside classes, meeting people, surrounding yourself by good people. The people you surround yourself makes your career, and like really finding that niche in those people to like build you up and not tear you down. That's huge, and that's going to keep you fed.
All right. Oh, she matched right with you right there on Nick. I think that was another one, and I think it's so vital coming from a man's perspective to guys who are working with female firefighters, or if you've never, which I don't know how, but if you've never had the opportunity or you're going to one of these days, they're exactly the same. They are into the job. They're here for the same reasons we're here for. And when we start changing standards, when we start thinking that we got to change the bar because she is a female or she's short, like Niki's pointed out 1,000 times that she's short, um, we don't change the standards because the people who depend on us, who are counting on us, they're not going to care when Niki or Chelsey roll up the truck and they're in full gear, masked up. They're not going to identify, oh my God, send me the guy up the ladder. They're just going to be glad a firefighter's coming up the ladder to get them. I think that's something we need to always have in our perspective, the way we look at things, the way we treat each other, the way we treat our training grounds, that on that dark, cold night, it's not going to matter to somebody one of these nights. And it could be Rowett makes the next rescue, or it could very well be on Nicole's next shift. She's the one dragging somebody out. And that person being drug out isn't going to give a rat's ass that it was a woman that drug them out. All they're going to care about is they got drug out of the home. And I think that's a critical thing for men to remember. Same thing. I want you to stay on that same format on your closing remarks this week, Row.
So mine would be that it's the same message I give everybody. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. The job's a job. So my best advice to anybody is to honor those that came before us. Everything before us was built on standards. It was all built on performance. At the end of the day, performance is the only metric that we have to evaluate ourselves. So everything else goes out the window. It all comes down to fireground performance. So honor those that came before us and built it. Hold yourself to the same standards they had, because they built something that we're the most loved service there is. People trust us because of what those before us proved we're willing to do. So honor that, push yourself to those standards, and don't make it about anything else. If you push yourself to that performance standard, anyone that won't accept you, regardless of what it is, that's their problem. Majority is going to be willing to accept anyone that pushes themselves to that level and bases everything based on standards. So that's my advice to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. The job's a job. It requires what it requires. Do everything you can to be good at it. Learn from the past. Honor the people that built it for you and came before us. And everyone should have success if you do that.
I love that. Great way to kind of close us out. I do want to make sure that we just take a really short second here. I want to personally thank FDIC, David Rhodes, everybody from the advisory board that allows us the honor to be a part of FDIC this past week. I tell everybody, if you've not been to FDIC for several years, it's time to come back. It truly is. Chief Rhodes and then the whole team, not just David, but the entire FDIC team that they have built over the last couple of years. They are really, really pushing things forward in their training environment. They're trying new things. Having a training academy on the floor of Lucas Oil was totally cool and unique experience to see. The kind of hybrid workshops with a little bit of light hands-on. A lot of cool things happening. The dates are out for next year already. I think they've already opened up. If you've ever thought about teaching there, try. The worst, they can't take away your birthday. So they just say, hey, try again next year. Write another article, or whatever the case may be. Highly recommend you guys come back. If you obviously a lot of guys got that message because it was hands-on this year was 99.6% sold out at FDIC, and that has been a long time since. Those are pre-COVID numbers, so I think they're making just unbelievable decisions. I'm super excited to see where FDIC goes over the next couple years, and I think it's going to be it's fun to be a part of. If I don't get asked to come back to teach, I'm just going to go and be a student because I've probably got more than I ever gave this past year. How many things I got to learn. Why they're able to teach at the same time. So I wanted to make sure we gave a shout out to fire engineering and David and everybody on their team. For people who do listen to us, we are now a monthly show. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. So we are going to be producing once a month now. We have some great ideas for some future guests coming up. So super excited about that. And we'll kind of go from there. So Final goodbyes, ladies. We want to say goodbye to everybody. Don't tune out because we got to make sure everything's good. So,
just
Nicole?
thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so
We
much.
appreciate y'all taking time out of your busy paramedic school days and EV education days, and and Rowett fortunately was able to do it on time where he didn't have to worry about which kid was running and landing and everybody else. So glad he was able to do it this time of day too. So, any final words from you, Captain Rowett?
No, just appreciate your guys' time. Enjoy that paramedic school study, and I'll never do that one. You can have it. Don't ever forget, Todd used to be one.
Yeah, the book was about this big, Nicole. It was totally different. We had like 4 drugs.
I know. I got 2 now, so.
Well, you can have it. I'm going to stay right where I'm at. No need for that.
Well, thanks to everybody who's listening and downloading, and we appreciate the support, and look forward to doing this again here next month. Thank you.
Did you know the risk of cancer does not stop at the scene of the fire? Firefighters are constantly exposed to diesel exhaust fumes and other airborne toxins that get trapped inside the station, leading to cancer. Protect yourself with MagneGrip. Through the combination of MagneGrip exhaust removal systems and AirHawk air purification systems, only MagneGrip eliminates 100% of all cancer-causing toxins within the station. Learn more at magnegrip.com.
In the world of firefighting and public safety, reliability is key. That's why for over 2 decades, first responders nationwide have trusted the Fire Store as their go-to source for essential equipment, apparel, and accessories. From top-of-the-line firefighting gear like helmets, boots, and thermal imaging cameras, the Fire Store has it all, tailored to the specific needs of our heroes on the front lines. But they don't stop there. Their extensive selection also includes EMS supplies, safety apparel like flame-resistant clothing and high-visibility gear, as well as a wide array of tools, from hand tools to vehicle extrication tools, supporting public safety professionals in their duties. Partnered with industry leaders, the Fire Store's commitment to quality and excellence is unmatched, because when it comes to protecting communities, there's no room for compromise. Join the thousands of first responders who rely on the Fire Store. Visit thefirestore.com online or in-store today. The Fire Store, your reliable partner for fire and public safety equipment.